It's Tim and Nick from The Elevator Life. We want to thank Matt and John for having us on lifestylebusinessdesign.com. Today we're going to be talking about in this episode Chinese employees, Chinese virtual assistants. What is it like to have a Chinese assistant? When do you need a Chinese assistant? What are the benefits of having them? We're going to talk about everything that we've learned in our last few years living here on the ground, owning businesses in China, and working with Chinese employees constantly.
Yeah, we think to be able to do business in the PRC, an assistant is a necessity. There's a whole bunch of international markets you could enter around the globe, but definitely if you want to enter this one, you will need the assistance, the help of a local.
Exactly. And so let's start out today with talking about the virtual assistant, the traditional virtual assistant, the idea behind that, compared to when you would hire a Chinese virtual assistant or a Chinese employee. Typically when you're doing going the virtual assistant route, you need someone that you can work with, obviously at arm's length. You're not going to be there coaching them or anything like that. And so it's, in our opinion, in our experience, it's really important that they're more westernized. They understand Western culture, and so your ideas about certain tasks aren't clashing so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, one last thing, what we've discovered with the Chinese people and the Chinese culture, the way of the reasoning, everything behind how and what makes them do certain things is so different from the West. It wouldn't make much sense to us to hire a Chinese virtual assistant, say, if she's just going to assist you with daily tasks, things with your business back home. That wouldn't make much sense to us.
Yeah, the traditional virtual assistants, Philippines, India, the thing that sticks out...
Even back in people's home country, virtual assistants back there.
Yeah, the thing that sticks out foremost to me is, a language barrier. And I couldn't really see people kind of pursuing China for the reasons of, like you said, asking for simple tasks, whether it's comprehension or spelling or even speaking. That's obviously much more of a capable crowd in places such as India, the Philippines, all over.
Yeah, there's better places to go.
Yeah, in regards to being on the ground as we are here, the necessity of having someone by your side, whether even if the communication isn't as good as it could be with someone who's fluent in the language, they understand at least how business is done on their end, and it's your job to make sure they understand how you do business as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And that point brings us into why is it important to have an assistant in China? As we've discovered, business is made a million times easier when you have employees on the ground because, like we said, ideas, cultures, they clash. Sometimes we can't understand why certain businesses do things a certain way, but your Chinese employees will. When you're negotiating with people here, Chinese people like to negotiate with other Chinese people. It gives you a certain amount of respect. Yeah. Okay? It makes everything easier. So if you're ever going to be doing business in China, and I don't mean business on the ground here, I mean say if you're going to source products from China, if you're going to do anything, having a Chinese virtual assistant or an actual assistant that's here on the ground representing your interests is huge benefits. It gives you so much more that you can do here.
Yeah, even those, we'll start small, even simple tasks from personal life to helping us find an apartment, to a new office, to negotiating or bartering in, Chinese, whether it's Mandarin or the domestic tongue, it's essential to have one. Because then that gives us our time. Us trying to find an apartment before, a year ago, compared to now when our assistant can search for them online, she can, get in touch with all of the real estate offices, and then we already have 5 or 6 lined up for one day. When this used to be, it took us a week-ish to find the places we wanted to go into the offices. We couldn't really line up schedules. They just make it so you are being the most efficient with your time as possible. And also, being abroad, if you aren't on the ground here, having those sales agents working for you, having an agent work for you, visit your factories, because you've heard all of the horror stories about manufacturing, and they get a product and it's just not what they expected. That's what your agent is there for, and that's what you can talk to them about.
That's why this point is so exciting. The ability to have assistants here on the ground in China gives everyone a chance to take advantage of this market. That's why it's such an important idea, it's such an important concept that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. Yeah. If you ask people, how are you going to do this in China? What's the first thing you would do? If we hadn't been here for a long time, we wouldn't know. We didn't know when we first came.
Definitely.
However, you do have the ability now to have a full-time assistant on the ground here that's going to help you navigate this marketplace. Okay, and that's when it gets back to the point. These kind of assistants versus other assistants. It wouldn't make sense to hire someone here if you simply had daily tasks to do back home. But if you're interested in this market, they open the gate and they open the doors for you to be successful here. Yeah. If you're gonna live here like we do, then it's a whole other story. Yeah. You need one. It makes life a million times easier. It makes everything doable. Tell what happened yesterday. The flowers.
Oh yeah, it was incredible. So, for example, one of our sales managers, it was her birthday yesterday. So we had our assistant, get, I think it was 24 roses, and it ends up this flower delivery store only takes cash, and we're talking 30-minute cab ride both ways, get to go to this flower shop to give cash that's close to where our sales manager lives. So there's no way or he will take an hour out of our time to do this. So she got onto the metro, which makes the trip even longer. Yeah. But she went all the way there, paid for got the flowers, paid for them, delivered them, and went back. And I couldn't imagine not having an extra hour yesterday. And they're able to take care of that for you. And that brings us to something I really want to talk about is the obedience of the people here. I guess they're very single direction minded if you don't express that they can kind of go outside the lines, because here they're not really comfortable doing that as a culture.
Yeah, and so that gets you down to it's important, like any assistant you're going to have, to understand the people that are going to be working for you. Okay? They're willing to do a lot of work. They're extremely hard workers. However, everything must be communicated exactly how you want them to do it, because you got to remember their culture is different than yours. Okay, so one thing that you say to them, and it's their second language, will probably be taken in a different way. And so that is obviously one of the difficult and hardships about having any kind of virtual assistant, and that exists here on the ground as well. However, they're very bright people, and they're very hard workers. Like, I don't know how else to say it. If you need help and you've been a good employee to them, they're going to do everything that you ask. And it is just fantastic, and it makes your life doable here. And so, moving on to that, let's talk about the cost. The cost of just our assistants that don't have any specialties. They're not our salesmen, they're not our sales managers or anything like that. They're just assistants. A full-time one, they're willing to work Sunday through Saturday, is about starting is about 3,500 RMB. I think that's about a little over 500, maybe $600 US. And so it's very affordable. That's giving you over 45 hours a week. We also have some on the payroll that are part-time. Yeah. And whenever you need something done, they'll do it. If you don't have, it's kind of more along the virtual assistant line. When you don't have tasks to keep them busy all the time, you can hire someone. I think a few of ours cost around 1,500 RMB a month, just part-time. And that's something that simple has been a huge help in our business.
Yeah, and another great thing is the job pool here, the employment pool. Yeah. A lot of they're either newly graduated or some of them are still in school, but their capability and their skills, the amount of money that we can provide for them is much better, and the hours are much more flexible compared to, a Chinese company who would, requires a lot more. Moves them all around the country. And we're as easygoing as we can be, but we still just make sure they do everything we ask them to, and they appreciate that. It's reciprocated, because then they're always there for you as long as you're always being fair to them.
One last thing to touch on, obviously the job pool, like he just said, there's a lot of workers here, and there is a lot of turnover. Yeah. We've had guys with businesses, and it's just hard to keep some employees, but it's all about the environment that you give to them. The environment that you have in your head and that what you're normal to, the work environment, is completely different from here. Yeah. So it's not difficult to keep employees happy, and that becomes such an asset when you can hold employees here for the long term. So I'd kind of like to wrap up to clear everything up, talk about the benefits. If you're ever interested in doing business in China, you have to look at getting an assistant here. It's not expensive, and it will make your business operational. Yeah. It'll make your headaches go away, because this is a country where there is bound to be hiccups, there's bound to be speed bumps, and you need these kind of assistants that are going to be there along the way, helping you get over those. They open up the market say if you're interested in even looking at manufacturers here, you should be looking for a virtual assistant or an assistant that will meet you at the airport, walk you all the way through your whole time here in China. I mean, the benefits are just astronomical when you're talking about an assistant in China if you're interested or even looking at doing business in China.
Yeah, for people like us who, the biggest thing we hate is wasting time, being inefficient. Yeah, you can literally give them a call the night before in the morning, let them know, this is what I need done today. I know they're more capable of doing it than I am. You know, it could be simple Baidu, which is like a Chinese Google searches for maybe where something is, a post office, whatever. Or it can be negotiating with the factory before you even go out there to visit. Or finding how to get to these factories before you make your way out there, and they can make a plan around it. And that will just, saves us so much time, which when we started, we weren't able to afford one. But now that it's now that the costs are very low and we're able to sustain them, it's no problem.
Exactly. And so guys, there's a lot of places you can find assistants very easily. The main one is 59jobs.com. You can find employees in any sector all over China. We were talking and tossing around the idea, there isn't a lot of people that we know down here that are doing this, applying virtual assistants that can easily talk to foreigners. And so if you do need help, shoot us an email over at the Elevator Life site. We're interested to hear from you guys, see if that might be something they're interested in. We're more than willing to start helping out if there's a big interest, and we might be looking to put something together for people. But yeah, the biggest thing, guys, is don't consider them in the same lines as other virtual assistants. It doesn't make much sense. There's other places that you can go to, such as the Philippines. But if you're interested at all in China, it's a necessity. Okay, it'll take you the last mile to get you there. It'll get you everything you're looking for. And so that's about it.
Yeah, 100%. These will cut your headaches in half before you had to suffer a ton of them like we did. So
this is a market, guys. It's exciting, and virtual assistants, whatever you want, they will allow you to get in. So, all right, that's enough.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again.
All right, thanks, guys. Talk to you later.